Welcome back, friends, to How Good Was It, where we review the movies of our past to see if they still hold up. And we are smack dab in the middle of Fright Month, maybe a little bit past by the time you hear this. But we are, including this episode, 2 episodes away from the end of Fright Month. And it has been a spectacular Fright Month. We are well prepared for the second half to our Exorcist review. And we broke out the crazy lights. And Scott in particular is all dolled up in his Exorcist best. Mind you, there is a new film, Exorcist Believer,
which I saw, which I went to see on Tuesday. Yes.
Oh, really? How did that go, Scott?
Well, yeah, I guess it went okay. So to fit in my busy schedule, I decided to see it at 12:30 in the afternoon. And on Tuesdays, I run 3-4 miles, and then I swim for an hour. So I ran, I swam, and I went directly to the movie theaters in my bathing suit, still wet, and sat down and watched Exorcist for the next 2 hours in the cold in the movie theater in a wet bathing suit. So yeah, Florida life is kind of what it is.
Can I ask, was it worth sitting in your wet swim trunks for 2 hours?
I think that's the only way to watch that movie is in your swim trunks. I think that's the way the director intended.
Gotta keep yourself awake.
Yeah. Honestly, it's not as bad as people made it out to be. It got really, really bad reviews. I think it's like 20-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was fine. It wasn't good.
Was it involve some kind of voodoo, like African voodoo?
It's just like the other Exorcist movies. It's all the same thing. Instead, it's 2 girls instead of 1 girl. And yeah, I would say the first 45 minutes are actually pretty good. And then the last half is, same old thing.
Let's get into the plot. What say you, fiends?
Sure. Yeah. I guess. I think Joe was like me. Joe, you watched this like a week ago as well, right?
Yeah, we saw. It was funny because I didn't watch it. I don't want to watch it by myself, so I
big surprise.
So I watch it. I made my girlfriend watch it with me
you before made bed. Her. I love that you use that terminology. I made her watch it.
I said you have to watch this. It's very interesting, based on a true event. It's more interesting this time around, I guess, because I was paying more attention to the movie.
Yes.
And it was, and then right after that, we saw the next day, we went and saw part 3.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you skipped 2 and you went right to 3?
Well, I've been listening to like people were giving a review how bad part 2 was. And, and then I listened to part 1 with a commentator, director comments, part 1. I was listening to it, not watching it. And yeah, there was a lot of negativity on part 2. They didn't think it was good or whatever. So I said, well, I'll just skip and go right to part 3. But it was very good.
Well, Joe, I didn't take Joe's good advice, and I watched part 2 as well. So part 2, I would say, is maybe the worst movie, one of the worst movies ever made. It is horrible, but almost in a bad way. I recommend watching it, at least watching the last half an hour. The last half an hour is bonkers. It is insane. The shit that we talk about movies being written on cocaine, things like I don't know, like Beastmaster or stuff like that we reviewed before that we say are insane. Jaws 3D. This tops it. This movie is a coke-fueled dream. It is incredible. I recommend to the viewers at home or the listeners at home, do yourself a favor. Watch the last 30 minutes of the movie. You don't need to know anything before that. Just watch it. It is totally insane.
So part 1 came out in 1973.
Yes.
And
December 26th, too. They put this out like right at Christmas.
I saw that. And well, part 1 was it was a lot of build up too, because when I was working I would listen to, instead of watching on YouTube, I listened to people reviews the movie, and the people were just bi-curious, I think, right? People were getting in line
Oh, it was a huge success. Yeah, they didn't really show, like, the commercials were very big. They didn't show Reagan. They didn't show what she looked like. There was a lot of talk about the movie, a lot of anticipation. It came from a novel. The novel was quite popular as well. And yeah, it really shocked people, so much so that people were fainting or getting sick in the theater.
Yeah.
Now we're referring to the first one, right?
The first one.
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear, because I was like, I was like, I didn't notice the transition from talking about.
No, the second one, people were super high on coke when they left the theater. It was totally different. They were ODing, is what they were doing.
So part one is about like more like marijuana, and then part two is cocaine. You said
yes. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So Joey P made an interesting comment before about how he found this film interesting. And I think I relate in that I have watched this movie before and I had a pretty solid, well, for me, it's solid memory of it, recollection. I recollected more about this movie than every other film we reviewed probably. But that being said, in watching it this time, I did find that it gave me the opportunity to notice things that I hadn't noticed before on previous watchings. And the use of symbolism in this movie. First of all, the cinematography was freaking amazing because it's like almost every scene, even the most subtle ones, were framed and designed to have you focus your eye on a certain thing and make you feel a certain way. And I think that's where this movie was so successful, is that it made you feel at certain times claustrophobic, like there's no hope. You know what I'm saying? And this is from the beginning. But let's get to the plot. As I mentioned at the beginning, and I guess I'll start it off because you guys watched the movie like a week ago.
Yes, please.
And I probably have, which is sad because if I have the best recollection, then we're in trouble probably. But
I have notes. It'll help.
Oh, thank God for you, Scott. Okay, let's go. I know it starts out with an archaeological dig in the Middle East somewhere. I'm not going to try to remember what country.
It was in Iraq. It was Iran. Yeah, it was one of them. I think it was Iraq.
I'll take it. I know it's the Middle East somewhere. And
I think, I think we may split the difference, Joe. I want to say it was filmed Iran, but it was supposed to be Iraq. I think, or the other way around.
I remember. So this is something not about it's about the movie, but not about the movie. So the director couldn't bring his camera crew to this place, so he had to train a British cameraman to film. And he has to direct them how to film it because I guess American wasn't allowed to enter the country. So that was Iraq. Iran.
It was Iraq. Okay. But yeah, I did read the same thing. He had an all British crew because the U.S. was not allowed over there. Yeah.
I do recall as a child that tensions were very heavy between the Middle East and
whatever happened. It used to be like that in the Middle East. It's not like that anymore. It's always been like that, Jim.
But back then it was like in the headlines every day. It was like a constant.
Nothing's changed.
You know what?
What's going on right now? It's insane there right now.
Okay, I don't watch the news anymore.
I am so refrain myself not to talk about this what's going on current event. It's
okay. We're gonna move on from that because I ain't getting into that because then this is gonna turn into a news.
It'll be a shit fest.
And I don't need those type of comments in our comment section.
So. Back in Iran, June.
Back in the Middle East. I'm just going to stick to Middle East.
Yeah. Back some in the old man is digging in the dirt.
Yes. And you see a little boy who comes and alerts him that they found something that might be of interest to him. And he goes to check it out. And there's this little hole in one of the excavations, right? And he's like digging through it. And this little statue pops out. Right. And it appears to be the top half to a statue of what we learn later is a demon.
What is it called? What's the name
Pazuzu.
of it?
Pazuzu, which is never mentioned in this movie, but Exorcist 2, they say his name fucking 50 times. They say it every chance they get. And no other movies, I don't think they even mentioned this. I
think I mentioned it once. I remember one time.
In this movie or in the third one?
I don't recall at all.
I don't think they did. I don't think it's the first one. I think it's the third one, Joe. I think
Okay.
that's part of the trivia is that it was never mentioned in the
Is
the
that
first
right?
one. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, I don't know what the appropriate name for a demon would be, but
It doesn't sound
Pazuzu.
Pazuzu. Pazuzu sounds like a dessert. It sounds like that dessert from BJ's, that Paizuki. You know, that's what it sounds like to me. So
I was
yeah.
gonna say it sounds like an 80s new wave band.
Pazuzu.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.